An estimated 2 million children are trafficked every year, and we can help them. Sound of Freedom is based on a true story about real-life heroes saving kids from the dark world of child trafficking. We know this is heartbreaking and it hurts to look at. But the first step in helping these children is hearing their story. Not enough people know this problem exists, and even fewer people are willing to do anything about it. Our goal is to inspire 2 million people to attend the film's opening weekend, to represent the 2 million trafficked children around the world. To spread the word, Angel Studios set up a Pay It Forward program where you can pay for someone else's ticket who might not otherwise see it. If the ticket price is stopping you from attending, claim your free ticket at angel.com/freedom. Sound of Freedom opens the week of July 4th. Every parent, every adult, and every teenager in America should be there to see it. If millions of us come together today to see this film, we could propel the movement to help save millions of children around the world. And you can send the message that God's children are no longer for sale.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Stu and the Nunn. I opened up with that for a reason. I want to thank you, everyone, for joining me, and I think you can hear me okay now. Thank you so much. It is episode 314. It has been a while. I need to put my earbuds back in because I can't hear right now. But I opened up with that Sound of Freedom, which came out on July 4th, about 2 weeks ago. Get my other earpiece in here for a reason. It's a topic. It's one of many topics I'm going to cover tonight. I have not been on in a while, obviously. A lot of travel and work and all kind of stuff like that. So I was unable to be on, and I was trying to do some shows remotely and on the road, and that just didn't work out either. Events kept happening and so on and so forth. So thank you for joining me and being on. Just myself tonight. I tried to scramble once I realized I could do a show tonight, and tried to scramble to get someone I couldn't. So let me hit on a couple of logistic things first. You may notice that I have just my green screen back here. I was playing with the software here that we use to publish, and I noticed that when I had the background feature turned on, and the feature was give me I had the flag back there, the brick wall or something. If you guys remember the last few episodes, it got very choppy. My mouth was moving. I looked like a really, really bad Chinese film. It was that as I was doing some testing earlier, I realized when I was playing with some different virtual backgrounds that as soon as I turned that on, I guess the technology, I mean, there's a pretty powerful Mac computer I run, but whatever it is, did not it started turning me real choppy. Like I say, if you've been watching this last few episodes, my guests seemed fine, and that's what kind of clued me into it. They were fine, and I'm the one doing all the broadcasting, the streaming, my internet. And it's like, if I've got all the power and I've got the direct connection, why am I choppy? And my guest audio was perfectly aligned with the video. And I realized it was the background. So I may be changing software, do something. I don't know. I'm going to figure it out. But so tonight you just have the green screen, no fake backgrounds. You just have a real green screen. So anyways, we'll get with that. So let's talk about this. The Sound of Freedom, Jim Caviezel, I think is how you say his name. He, pretty powerful actor. If you recognized him, he's the one that played Jesus Christ in The Passion, which, if anyone has watched The Passion, it's a really tough movie to watch, especially in the beatings and everything else. Well, he's the one that played, speaking every line in Aramaic and all that stuff. So he's teamed up with Angel Studios, who make The Chosen. Great show. And to do this, I've been traveling. I haven't been able to see it, but I wanted to get it out there for others to make sure you know about it. It's worth going to get a ticket. I'm definitely going to be going to see it. It blew out Indiana Jones, which I heard was very woke, and it's gotten the wokeness put to it. And opening weekend, huge monster budget. It blew Indiana Jones number 4, I guess, out of the water. And this is a Christian-based, Christian-backed movie about a very serious thing, child trafficking. And the left has been attacking it pretty extensively, as QAnon and all this kind of stuff. They throw in everything out there that they can get people stirred up and get them emotional. I'm not sure where that comes from. I know there's a lot of things that hey, what's up, Sergeant Major B? Not sure who Sergeant Major B is, but welcome aboard, brother or sister. I guess could be the one. Anyways, the a lot of things that are partisan, right? You could wear a red hat, you could wear a whatever, not wear a red hat. You could put a coexist sticker on, or say you're for the vaccine or not for the vaccine. I mean, just about everything has been polarized to be political. I would think that child trafficking, or being against child trafficking, would be something that could cross party lines. I would think not wanting children to be kidnapped, raped, murdered, sold into slavery, regardless of kind of what letter you believe in, what line you vote on the ballot, who your candidate is. I would I actually do know me. Okay. I probably do. I got to think about this when I'm doing my show. See the initial CB. So I'm going to mull this one over in my head. But, you would think that would be, the hurting people. Look, whether you're faithful or religious or not, right? I was talking to someone just the other day. We were talking last weekend. I was with some buddies and a whole bunch of my team that I was in Afghanistan with. We get together and we were talking about faiths and religions and stuff. And one thing we all agree, and this is just common fact, that regardless of what religion it is, whether Catholic, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Buddhism, I mean, you name it, just about every faith of every flavor and kind of set on a few basic principles. One is being good to your neighbors, being good to other people, being kind, helpful, courteous, things like that. They all believe usually in a deity of some type, right? Doing good things, being good people, and then how that gets spun by religion is how they get spun. But, they all kind of believe that you just try to be a good person, and then, of some flavor caliber. Well, I would think, regardless of what religion you are, short of bastardizing your religion and twisting it for a sick, demented reason, like happens in extremism, you would be all okay with, not hurting children, not taking advantage of the weak, or underprivileged, and all those different things. I can't imagine that child trafficking is and child slavery, because I mean everything on the left talks about is reparations and slavery and anti-slavery and wanting money and Black Lives Matter and all this kind of stuff, and reparations is now the hot word. That was all slavery. You would think they'd be the first ones, the left, to stand up and say, no, this is terrible, we shouldn't let this happen. However, I'm afraid that's not the case, because what is the case is hold on a second, just doing some of my socials, because what is the case is that there's a Democrat in California that is trying to block a bill. He's a state Democrat, I believe. I don't have the story right in front of me right now. He's a state Democrat, but in California, he is trying to block a bill that would make child trafficking a felony. Now, I guess that keeps it as a misdemeanor. I'm not sure what that point is, but why would you stop making child trafficking, like child murder, like anything else horrible, rape, all that kind of stuff? Why would you not want that to be a felony? But there is a Democrat that doesn't want it to be. Now, I full disclosure, I have not dug into it and read the whole story. I just got a quick blurb on the headlines and saw that. So I don't know what the reason would be. I can't imagine. I'll give them the very, very thin benefit of the doubt. Maybe there is one, but maybe the reason is don't make it a felony, make it instant execution. I don't think that's the case, but I could probably get behind that one. But wants to block. Someone can find the article, that'd be great, or go find it. I'll try to look at it while I'm doing this. My boy Rob is kind of is busy too tonight, so I'm not sure he's on, but definitely something. Oh no, here we go. I did find it. So let me read this to you. So uh so a Democrat member of the California Assembly. Okay. So he admitted, the Public Safety Committee admitted to making a bad decision on a bill that would have increased penalties for human trafficking. I regret doing what I did and was going to get this important legislation passed into law. He said he made a bad decision voting against legislation targeting really bad people who traffic children. So I guess maybe he got some pushback on that, and but he did support not making it harsh. So just the bottom line is I'm getting a call. The Hold on a second. Let's do a text. The bottom line is I would think anyone could get behind that, and anyone could support that. But yeah. Oh, there's Rob. Sorry, Rob. I just saw you. Welcome, brother. Yeah. So check out Sound of Freedom. It's by Angel Studios. It's there's a lot of crap we go to the theaters to see, and all that kind of stuff. So that's probably one that is a good worth of whatever it is, 10-15 bucks for a movie now. I don't know, but definitely want to go see. So I got a number of other topics to hit on. Here's another one. There's some of you guys I know I'm gonna hit. I'm gonna get we're gonna talk politics, we're gonna talk nose candy, we're gonna hit on all that. But I do want to hit on this amazing story. So we talk about people coming together, and we talk about people crossing, I guess, party lines. Let's talk about people crossing cultural lines. So an amazing thing happened this last couple weeks or a while back. There's a 12-year-old boy who was hit by a car on a bicycle. I don't know if you've heard this or not, but this is pretty amazing. Hit by a car on a bicycle. It, what they call, technically decapitated him. It separated his skull from the top of his spine. Not 100%. Like, I guess the spinal cord is probably still attached, but like the vertebrae, the bones all broke free. Doctors were able to reattach his head to his spine through emergency surgery. They rushed him into surgery, and they did all that, and they essentially have done something that I guess has never been done before. And they reattached this boy's head, skull, to his spine, and he has survived and living and able to move around and shows no long-term or permanent signs of damage. Like, he's getting along okay. Now, that in itself is pretty amazing. I think all would agree. You can comment in the chat if you agree or disagree, I guess. I'm watching all the chats right now. I'm watching them all. YouTube, I see Sergeant Major B on. I got Facebook going. No one's commenting on Twitch. But anyways, we're on all of them. So you go, okay, Troy, that's pretty amazing. Yeah, but you know what makes it more amazing? The boy was Palestinian. This happened in Israel, and the surgeons were Israeli. Talk about crossing cultural lines. They didn't say, nah, he's Palestinian. They didn't say, the family of the boy probably didn't say, no, we don't want these Israelis. We'd rather our son die than Israeli doctors operate on him. But they brought all their knowledge and expertise and education to bear. They didn't care what this boy, what family he was born into, or what side of the line he was born on. He was a child that was hit and severely hurt, and absolutely, probably in any case would have died. By the grace of God and a miracle, regardless of what God you believe in, and probably both sides believe in different, we know. They saved his life, reattached his skull, and it was a Palestinian boy and Israeli doctor. So you could pick either parts of that story and think it's a miracle and say that's amazing and what a great story. The attaching of a head, or that Israeli doctor saved the life of a 12-year-old boy when all you do is hear about the throwing of Molotov cocktails and the fighting and the killing and the stabbings and everything. So I wanted to highlight that. That was one I'd come across. I haven't heard a lot about it. Obviously, there's a lot of other stuff picking up the news headlines, and we're going to talk about those. But that was one I also wanted to bring forward because I thought that was a pretty cool story, that from international, that our media doesn't always cover. So let's get on to some other stuff. Let's see where we're going to go next. Well, we're going to politics. We're going to bounce back out of politics, but I don't want to save it all to the end. So I don't know if you heard, Rob, you probably heard, we have a new czar. I don't remember when we started getting czars. I think maybe it's Reagan that started with the czar thing. I don't remember, but it seems like it was Reagan to me. We have a new czar, the AI czar, the artificial intelligence czar. And when you think about that word, artificial intelligence, it's kind of like military intelligence. A lot of people consider that an oxymoron. I got to say, I kind of go along with that joke too. But artificial intelligence, right? Fake intelligence, something that's supposed to be intelligent and smart and all that, but it's not really real and all that kind of stuff. Well, how ironic is it that Kamala Harris is our new AI artificial intelligence czar? And boy, what a bang up job she's done already. Because in classic Kamala fashion, not only does she cackle her way through, well, one, she gets appointed as czar. I think she's czar of the southern border, czar of fentanyl, maybe. I don't know. She's like a czar of like 20 things. I'm not sure. She hasn't done anything. So I guess that's what a czar is supposed to do, not do anything. Oh, Franklin Roosevelt had czars. Thank you, Rob. Man, the best producer ever you never paid for. But so she's a czar of a lot of stuff. She hasn't really done anything in any of those things. But now she's the artificial intelligence czar. And the joke just writes itself. I mean, one, she came out and talked about the other day to civil rights and consumer community leaders or something like that. And when she talked and explained AI, she did it like she normally does. Like she's talking to a group of third graders, telling them about space. And she breaks it down. I mean, she's the queen of mansplaining, except she does, I think you could call her doing everyone's splaining, because it doesn't matter who she talks to. She breaks it down and talks like we're on the Barney show. In the military, we used to say break it down Barney style, because he would talk to kids like they're freaking idiots, and he would break it down where little kids could understand them. Yeah, she is the queen of rambles. She's the queen of a lot of stuff. Really? Reagan only had one? Holy cow. But yeah, she is, she broke it down and talked to these adults. And she was like, AI, it's like a fancy thing. I know I'm paraphrasing here, and I can't do a Kamala impression. And it's only 2 letters, and it stands for machine learning. Like that was the first time that dumbsplaining. Good one, CB. I like that one there. Sorry, Major. That's probably the way best term. It's better than everything. Everyone's splaining. But she said AI. It's 2 letters. It stands for machine learning. Pause right there. The freaking letters are AI. Machine learning starts with 2 words, starts with the letter for 2 words, ML. In the IT world, we call it AI and ML. We refer to it as by the acronyms like we do everything. But when you start out with AI, it just is 2 letters. Like it's so simple. And it stands for machine learning. No, retard. It stands for freaking artificial intelligence. Let's move on. Unpause. She goes into that. She breaks it down. She talks about it at very well, dumbsplaining it, as is the new word now to be used, and goes all into it and does a full word salad and all that kind of stuff. And then I sit back and I go, if I were to use artificial intelligence is awesome. I work in it in my field with what I do professionally, my career wise. It's out there. I've played with ChatGPT. We know it does a lot of stuff. It actually has been used for a while, just to be clear, just because the media started talking about it. We've been selling it, and it's used inside of IT systems for corporation enterprises, governments for a long time. They're not all Terminator robots, but anyways. So, if I take that part out, the smart part, the thing that this computer, you can jam it with so much information that it can take queries, if you would, or inputs and generate logical explanations or outputs. I guess I'll kind of keep it without getting too technical. But if you just took the two words, artificial intelligence, like fake smart, right? That's, if you were like translate those words, like it's like fake smart, not real smartness, that kind of stuff. Man, what a better person than Kamala Harris to be the czar of that. It's just she's the czar of probably the literal definition of that versus what it really means in our society today. So that's her new thing. She's a czar, and maybe she can find the root cause of AI. I don't know. But yeah, she just continues to dig herself into a deeper hole, maybe down in the single digits approval now. I don't know, but she keeps doing it. So that's her new job. That's it. Besides the border, besides fentanyl, besides I think gun trafficking. I don't know. Everything gets given to her because Biden goes to bed too early or puts a lid on stuff. I don't know. Anyway, so that's my first political one. My next political one my next one is I want to talk about something that happened today. Not sure if you heard this, but 3,000, the president has authorized on his way back from Europe, the activation of 3,000 reserve soldiers onto Title 10 orders. Up to 3,000 mobilizing. I read the notice and that kind of stuff. Not a lot of detail. It's probably going to be, we think, I think some assumptions are medical support. I mean, it's reserve army units, at least, are typically what we would call combat support or combat service support type units, right? They're not, they're typically not going to be, they're not infantry units and that kind of stuff. That's held in active duty or the National Guard. Reserve units are more of the support side of the house. And yeah, as Rob said, the not more than 450 from one of maybe individual ready reserve, 3,000 total. So the IRR 3,000 total. So we're not sure what this is for. A lot of presumption or a lot of assumptions are it's for Ukraine or something like that. It's part of Atlantic Resolve. I know it's an operational name they gave to something, which I think is just like helping secure Europe while Ukraine battles Russia. But yeah, so that happened today. He signed an order allowing up to 3,000 soldiers to be called up, to be up to that many to be deployed in support of what's happening somewhere in Europe. I'm not sure, and I'm not sure if anyone's going to stay on top of this to know where they end up being put. But I just want to highlight that because that came out, I guess, about 4 or 5 hours ago. It wasn't that long ago. And I don't know how much press it's gotten. Obviously, if it's in favor of some Democratic talking point, then it will get a lot of press. And if it's something they want to keep on the DL, it will get no press except for maybe like Fox, Newsmax, and OAN. So that happened today, too. We're saving the best for last. Don't worry. So let's talk about Supreme Court. Yeah, sorry, Major B, probably making up shortages. But it's probably like water purification and transportation logistics folks or something, or medical. Yeah, probably that. They probably don't want to pull them out of active duty units, I'm assuming. So it's just easy enough to disrupt, reserve component soldiers who are in college. Actually, wouldn't be probably in school right now, so that probably isn't bad. In work and professionals and stuff. It's probably just easier to disrupt them than just activate the appropriate active duty units. But who knows? Anyways, yeah, I want to talk about this affirmative action ruling by the Supreme Court that happened week before last. And that was a big weekend, like 2 weekends ago. It was like ruling after ruling, and I'm not going to get into all of them. I'm just going to talk about this one. That was something else we talked about last week or so last weekend when I was with my guys and their families from Afghanistan. But I was talking to someone about this, a work colleague, the last couple of days I was traveling. I never understood affirmative action, and I invite anybody to type or text or call me or whatever, and I'll have you on the show to explain to me and convince me that affirmative action is absolutely 180 degrees different than everything that Martin Luther King stood for. I mean, when you hear the words echoed, judge someone by the content of their character and not the color of their skin, how is affirmative action not the complete opposite of that? I've never understood that. I've never understood how people could quote him and hold him up as he should be as a civil rights leader, and that he was, and the instrument of change that he was, and then at the same time be supportive of something that goes against the basic tenet that he preached about, from the most famous speech of many speeches he gave that he preached about, that you judge someone by the content of their character, what they are capable to do, what they are made up of, and not the color of their skin. The identity politics of today is exactly judging people by the color of their skin. And the color does not necessarily mean the pigment. It could be their heritage, whether they're Asian or Latino or Black, Jamaican, regular Caucasian that are made up from countries all over Europe, Native American, Southeastern Indian, whatever it may be. Color is just, that's at the time, that was what was happening, right? But it was mostly on Blacks, and that's why he said it. But how is affirmative action of any kind, whether in the workforce, where you see fire departments and law enforcement agencies and military and the federal government say they want to hire, well, hell, even our own president, right? When he picked a VP, he said he was picking a Black female. That is judging someone by their demographics, by the color of their skin, their gender, all those things that make up a person, and not who is the most capable. When he picked Supreme Court justices, he claimed he was picking Black females. Again, completely opposite of the teachings of Martin Luther King Jr. So, if I do not understand this, if you're saying, dude, you're a white dude, how do you know you can't talk about this? I invite you to contact me. You can hit us up here at the show, and you can reach out to us on our Facebook, whatever, and I'll be glad to have you on and us to have a nice civil discussion about it, and help me understand what I'm not seeing. But this case, where you have colleges were judging people by the color of skin, the same thing, the same attributes that the equal opportunity that the Department of Labor has put out, that you see hanging in every workplace, right? I think it's mandatory. It's a law that a workplace has to have that little placard up on a cork board that employs people, that everyone to be, no one to be judged, or no one to be by race, gender, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. Now I think it's a sexual orientation, I don't know. But that same sign that's in every single workplace, usually in the break room or something, those same characteristics or attributes of a human being were being used, or were being measured, to determine if someone could get into college or not, regardless of their capabilities, SAT, ACT scores, the essays they wrote, what their grades were. That's what affirmative action did. Not only, again, this was in universities, higher education, but it absolutely takes place in late places of employment, not hindered, not hidden at all. It happens all the time. So that ruling was pretty powerful in the fact that they said, and I thought it was pretty interesting, that they used the 14th Amendment, which was the slavery amendment, essentially, to say you cannot, be biased against people that are, minorities or of color and that kind of stuff. They use that to say that's exactly what you're doing. And I thought, man, it took this long for someone to get something in front of the Supreme Court and then to rule on it. There a few didn't, a few went against that. Jackson, she was one of the ones, and she's already been ripped apart for some of the stuff she said, because she was false in what she said, and her numbers didn't add up. But they interpreted and said, well, no, what the 14th Amendment protects against is exactly what was being violated when you denied Asians and whites, essentially Caucasians, or you put them lower on the priority list to get into higher education, and you gave other minorities higher preference based on the color of their skin. The 14th Amendment, the civil rights movement, and everything else that's happened around that in our country has been to make sure you don't get preference, you don't pick only, you don't let them sit in the front of the bus, people based on the color of their skin, hence white. But it doesn't matter what. Color skin's color skin. Being biased against someone because of something, a demographic or characteristic about them, is being biased and racist and all that kind of stuff. So it was a very important ruling. It was quick. It didn't get as much hubbub as Roe v. Wade, obviously from the left, but it got enough. And it was a quick blurb. A lot of the people on the left came out and how terrible is the Supreme Court. AOC's talking about what she was talking and all that crap. And I'm going to repeat it all because she's just freaking stealing oxygen every time she opens her mouth or breathes in from the rest of us. But, that was an important ruling. And, does it mean universities have to go by it? Doesn't mean that they can't. I guess they still can. I don't know how they will, if they're going to strip that from the the application or whatever. But that was an important ruling. I just want to highlight that we have not been on the air since that happened, so it's been on my mind for a while, that I wanted to point out. That was such an instrumental and huge ruling. And there was the thing with the people, the bakers that don't want to make the cake for the gay couple and all that stuff, and we can always get into that later. But this one was big because this has been around for a long time. And again, I always looked at affirmative action as the worst thing ever that was going on in this country. Now, I'll pause and say, I understand the reason behind it. I'm not oblivious to that. I'm not ignorant to the fact that there were people being racist and were judging people by the color of their skin. And it was meant to get rid of that. It was meant to give people a chance for organizations, whether it be companies or universities or whoever was picking people to do something. It was to make sure that, people of minority or people of color that maybe in the past or up to that point never got selected because racist people were using those same attributes to pick someone, and they were picking white people or males only or whatever it was. So I understand the purpose behind it. I get the intent. Problem is, it's flawed. It's as flawed as a Roe v. Wade, right? Ruth Bader Ginsburg even said that was a flawed ruling when it happened. But the left loves to forget about that, and she's on the record for that. So it was a flawed way to mitigate the racist selections and the bad things that were happening. So I get it. It just should never have happened. There's probably better ways to do it, and I'm sure we could get some smart people that maybe don't have agendas. Yeah, thanks, Rob. Yeah, don't have agendas that could sit down and do it. But the bottom line is we've seen the stories. I've seen the stories in the last few years of fire departments doing a fireman's test, and like the only people to pass it were like a handful of, like, I guess, white dudes or something, and they threw out the whole test and re-gave it again until they got some black or minority applicants to get it, and so they could pick them, when there were other people that probably studied hard, were more than capable, right, and applied, and they threw it out because, well, they just weren't the right color. We see that now. We see people who there's the Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't it the Air Force that was saying they wanted pilots made up of more diverse people and diversities, and they were essentially saying, our military pilots, they were applying affirmative actions, and they wanted more minorities in there, and that's what they were going to look to do versus the people that are most qualified, which, by the way, translates into the content of your character. So, yeah, big ruling on that. I just don't think it got enough press for long enough. Obviously, somebody, there were a lot of things hitting the news, and they wanted to divert or whatever. But yeah, big one. So, yeah, pay attention to that. I'm interested to see how that turns out. Yeah, it was it. It was the Air Force. They wanted more diversity in their officer group. Yep. But and we see that in some of the special operations too of the U.S. military, all special operations. So so we talked about the soldiers, talked about affirmative action. So we talked about Kamala. All right, we got to hit on it. Cocaine in the White House. So I heard today, I always thought there were drug sniffing dogs in the White House, and apparently there's not. I guess Congress was briefed today or yesterday. I don't know. I was traveling, but there aren't drug sniffing dogs. And I kind of went, I thought there would be, but then again, I'm sure they're like, hey, Bob, do you think we can get some drug sniffing canines over here? Nah, man. I mean, the freaking White House, dude. Who's bringing drugs in the White House? Yeah, we should probably focus on, like, chemical weapons and bombs and stuff. Yeah, if we're going to have dogs, let's have them do that. So they never had them. Doesn't mean there haven't been drugs in the White House. But, it's not Tony Montana's place, so they probably never really expected somebody would be ballsy or stupid enough not to bring any drugs, to bring a hard drug into the White House like cocaine. So okay, that's how it got in there. But the administration did not help itself at all when they changed the location 3 times. I mean, I was even confused. I'm like, wait a minute. It's like, no, they said it was in the library. I'm like, I've been in the library. When Dave Bellevue got his Medal of Honor, we toured through there and they let us go pretty much in all these places. I saw pictures. I'm like, I know that library. I have pictures in that library. And I thought, okay, but I remembered all the checks we went through to get into the White House. And I'm military with a clearance, retired military with a clearance. I was there for a very military event. And I went through 10 ways to Sunday to get in that place. And I'm thinking, man, how did someone get, how about, I remember going through metal detectors and all these crazy things. I'm thinking, how did someone get drugs in there? I know they had to check us for that, but now that I think back, maybe they didn't. But then they switched it from there to the West Wing. And that sounds bad. Because the West Wing is like, the West Wing is where the Oval Office is and all that stuff. And what had happened there was what I'd heard is that I'm seeing alerts on this right now. Was that the Secret Service got wind of this, and they sweep after every time a tour comes through. They clear the whole place, even like we were there for Dave's Medal of Honor, right? I'm sure they cleared us out. They checked the whole place, make sure no one leaves a backpack there or stick something underneath the table or whatever. I get it, right? They should. Thank God they do that. And they realized that they were about to be set up as a scapegoat because it was in a public tour area and the Secret Service didn't catch it. So one of them anonymously got to the press and said, no, it was in the West Wing, and said, nope, you're not going to pin this on us. It was not an area that they protect everywhere, but it's not an area like that they're checking all the time. But then it changed again. It wasn't the West Wing. It's like, what could be worse than the West Wing? Oh, the Situation Room, like the most secure, what we call SCIF, right? Secure Compartmentalized Information Facility, SCIF, in probably the world, probably more of a secure SCIF than even at the Pentagon or anywhere else, right? Yeah, all those pictures you see where they're watching the raid on Osama bin Laden, that's like the Situation Room in there. So they do. They say no, it was in the waiting room. It was in the waiting area, the sitting area outside the Situation Room. That didn't help the story at all, right? It's already bad enough we have cocaine in the White House. We have a known drug addict that apparently has been living in there, Hunter Biden. Then you had the KJP shirt up there talking, saying the first family had been gone and stuff for like 3 days. But then it came out, nope, they were there just hours before it was found. So the story, all these stories are changing it. There's an old term, quacks like a duck, walk like a duck, swims like a duck. It's a freaking duck. And when you can't have your story straight, how many times do you watch the cop show where they're interrogating somebody? And hey, what happened? What happened when you pulled up? What did you see when the person shot at somebody? What happened in the house? When someone's story changes, if you're watching those cop shows, 48 Hours or any of that kind of stuff, you watch enough of it, you're as good as you can pick it up like, oh, they're lying. Their story has changed. They said they were outside the house. Or look at the dude there in South Carolina, right? He said he was at his house, and then his son's phone got shot, picked him up out of the dog kennels. Right, his story changed. When that happens, dude, it's like sharks in the water. They're blood in the water. They're on you. So the White House's story has changed several times. It doesn't look good. And now today, the Secret Service comes out and says the case is closed. We can't figure out who did it. Now, think about that for a second. Probably the most secure building in the world. The most secure building in the world. Oh yeah, even the one. They even tried to say maybe his construction workers that were just walked over there and, had his baggie, had a Ziploc bag in his lunchbox while he was taking a lunch break and decided to do a bump or two. But the most secure building in the world cameras everywhere. And I'm telling you, I've been in this building, and as you can imagine, many of you, it's the White House, it's going to be, there's like dudes on the rooftop. They got cameras everywhere. You fly a drone near that thing, it just drops out of the sky. This place is locked down tighter than a Dick Sap band. And they can't get anyone on video, right? And now they're saying they had no fingerprints. However, my good friend, Dave Bellavia, had another good friend of mine, Susan Katz Keating, on his show today. Because I got rumor of this the other day. She came on today. Susan used to write for People magazine and People.com on her online site for a long time. She bought SOF magazine, Soldier Fortune magazine, and runs SOF.com. I've known Susan for years. Dave had her on today. Susan has connections. She is in the DC area. She's an investigative journalist. She has not connections. She came on his show today at WBEN and stated that she has the name. They had the prints for over a week, which I think all of us was like, how could they not get latent prints off of a plastic bag? They got the prints. She has the name. She's waiting for it to be confirmed, but she came out today and there is no media outlet covering this. Dave had her on the show, and she has the name of who they got the prints off of that bag. And they are not releasing it. Now, I have heard rumor of a certain gender that the prints belong to, but I'm not going to go into any of that. I guess you got a 50-50 chance, or it's 2023. I guess you got LGBTQ. I don't know. Well, there's only two genders. There's like a whole bunch of different types of gay, but either way. So Susan is saying she's a very reputable investigative journalist. She is saying that she has the name of whose it was. So stay tuned, because she won't sit on that. At some point, she's going to let that out of who those prints belong to that were on that baggie. Seems pretty straightforward. Basic police work. You see it in TV shows, both written Hollywood TV shows, and you see it in real life cop drama shows all the time. And it happens, obviously, gets played out in real life all the time in courts and everything else. So the most probably camera covered and secure building in the world. And you would think they probably have a camera to run the Situation Room, and it was in a baggie. So we'll see what happens. But I really can't believe that the Secret Service, or the administration pushing on the Secret Service, was thinking they were going to get by with the secrets going, couldn't figure it out. Our bad. Glad it wasn't ricin. Glad it wasn't freaking anthrax. Because would they been the same? Would they be the same cavalier? Would they be just as shit? We found a whole, half kilo of anthrax in the White House. Don't know how it got there. Oh well, at least the fire department got it. This country would lose its mind. Congress, everyone would be like, how did you let a bag of anthrax get carried into the White House, or ricin, or anything? I don't give a shit if it's flour, and drop there to imitate like it was something bad, right? How did the Secret Service let that happen? How did anyone let that happen? Well, I can't imagine the Secret Service did, because even though they check a lot of people, there's a difference between how people are checked that are visiting the White House and people that work and or live in the White House, right? So I don't know the protocols. I don't know the security postures. I'll be the first to say I really don't. But I know they don't run the first family and probably everyday staffers that work in there every single day through all the same checks that I went through. I can't imagine. They would have to start hours ahead of time. Those people are coming in and out to do their job, right? They've kind of been cleared. They've had background checks and security clearances. You don't have to really do that. So, somebody got it in there, and eventually it's going to come out. Obviously a lot of people think it's Hunter Biden because he has a drug problem, but Biden's daughter also had admitted drug problem, and anyone else could have a drug problem. But we'll see. Part of me thinks, okay, I kind of, like many people do, suspect it's probably Hunter Biden's, but the other thing is, like, that's almost too easy. Everyone would look towards that. Could it really be somebody else? Maybe Kamala was, she's a drug czar. Maybe she was bringing some in to show people what it looks like. I don't know. But anyways, Susan Katz Keating, sofmag.com, I think, is the website. Soldier Fortune magazine. Like I say, she's written for New York Post, New York Times, People for years. Also, a very reputable journalist, wonderful lady, good friend. She has the name. Now let's see what media outlets are going to pick it up and take it from here. Hell, I hope even my social media outlets let this show stay up. They may not even let this happen. So, wanted to hit on that. So, we are 48 minutes into this show. I got pretty much one last big topic I think I want to hit on, and that is Biden in 2024. So, I don't know if you saw today, but President Biden left Europe, as you know, on his way back. He fell again, going upstairs again into Air Force One. He stumbled going up into the stairs. So between that and him calling Zelensky Vladimir, he's already talked about the Russians fighting the war in Iraq. Then didn't even call Zelensky President Zelensky. He called him Mr. Zelensky in Ukraine. I mean, in front of Ukraine journalists, not in Ukraine, but I guess he was in front of Ukraine journalists when he's with them. But I mean, at some point, are they going to, is Uncle Joe, who apparently is a big screamer and cusser and everything else, according to the stories that came out last week, which we kind of know before, he would get caught on hot mics all the time as the VP dropping F-bombs and stuff. But is he really, I mean, we are, what is it, July? So we are 16 months away from the next presidential election. Think about this, 16 months away. The first state primary I heard is, hey, what's up, Lukeman? What's up, my brother? I think the first state primary is January 15th in New Hampshire. Republican one, at least, I think that's what I heard. Republican primary. I heard that the other day. Don't quote me on that. Rob will correct me if I'm wrong. But so, that's 7 months away. But we're 16 months away from the next presidential election. And to think that the guy who continues to stumble going upstairs, falls over sandbags after standing next to him for 2.5 hours, can't determine it, split the difference between who his sister is and his wife is, has talked about his one son. Both sons served in the military, just one pissed hot for coke before he even went to his first training. Never talks about Hunter's military service like he does Bo's. But anyways, I don't want to digress. So, talks about Bo dying in Iraq all the time. Bo didn't die in Iraq, died in a hospital in the U.S. from, cancer, not from anything in combat. Can't figure out who he's talking to, what he's talking about. Called Pete Buttigieg one time booty juice. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. That this dude is going to still run in 2024. So I propose this to you. I mean, if there's a time I want to travel forward in time, if I could just get a short little stint, it would to kind of see what happens over the next 16 months. The Democrats, I mean, they don't want him, but they also don't want Kamala. And they want Kamala less than they want him. At least they can control him. But at some point, the Democrat machine, the same one that made sure that twice Bernie never got a chance. Why are my lights coming on? That was kind of weird. Not sure who turned those on. But the same one that made sure Bernie didn't have a chance and Hillary was the one that got the DNC convention and, won the Democratic nomination in 2016. Is at some point going to turn against him. What I can't figure out, what I can't predict is what here, I'm just going to turn off my lights here. Sorry. There we go. What I can't predict is who they're going to put in there. I mean, every week or month, actually every month they get closer to that election without someone solidified, supported, championed, fundraised for everything else. They make themselves weaker and weaker. They can't wait to 8 months out, 9 months out and think they're going to, maybe Newsom. I don't know. Newsom doesn't. Yeah, I've thought about Newsom. He's a pretty boy and all that kind of stuff. But Newsom doesn't have name recognition. I mean, he's not national. He's known in California. And yes, that's a big voting block without a doubt. But I don't think he doesn't have a record to stand on that's positive. I mean, you look at San Francisco, he was the mayor. Look at the state. I mean, kind of, He's not. There's not something he can say he did well. Anyways, and now the actors have voted to join the writers on the strike, so that's even better for California. Whole different topic, but you know, who can they put up there with a running mate? Because Newsom ain't going to take Kamala. Kamala's not going to want to play second fiddle to him, and all the women in the View will come out and say, "Look, you won't let a woman do the job." I mean, just they'll just eat each other. They'll implode, which would be great. But I just don't know who they can throw up there to have a chance on the national stage. Nobody that was in 2020 that ran that, Biden, by the way, only won South Carolina and somehow still got the Democratic nomination. Why? Because the DNC wanted him. Same reason why Hillary won those two times. So it ain't going to be Buttigieg. It ain't going to be it's not going to be Warren. It's not going to be what's the Spartacus dude. I mean, Bernie's not going to go a third. I mean, there's nobody. They don't have anyone. I mean, maybe Christie could cut over to the Democrats, but I don't think they like him either, just like the Republicans don't. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, just as much as it's going to be interesting to see what happens on the Republican side for 2024. I mean, this country's really freaking upside down. They're trying to protect child molesters and child traffickers. They come out against a movie that highlights the dangers of it. You got cocaine in a flipping White House. You've got you've got all these things happening, and now you have a former president running again, who's been indicted twice, and every time he gets indicted, his numbers keep going up. Nobody can figure that out, but they can never figure out Trump before. You got him and DeSantis fighting, which doesn't make sense because, man, if they teamed up, they would be freaking unstoppable. I mean, if they teamed up, gave each other a big bro hug, came out on the stage and said, "Hey, we're good. We buried the hatchet. Bygones beat bygones." DeSantis for VP, Trump for president. Let's freaking take this country back. That would be the biggest threat ever to the left. You have all these other people who look all like very positive candidates, right? Many of them, maybe Elder. I mean, he's out. There's a couple who don't really have a chance, but you got RFK Jr., you got a Kennedy who's making big gains, but I mean, typically, Kennedy was a dynasty, right? You have a Kennedy run. I mean, you had one that killed a woman in freaking Chappaquiddick, and he still ran and stayed a senator forever. I mean, that would, so, I mean, they'll vote Kennedy no matter what. I mean, they'd probably pull up JFK. They'd probably pull up JFK himself and put a hat on him and freaking vote for him again. I know that was terrible. I'm sorry about that, but it felt like the joke was there. But then he can't even get numbers. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. You got a guy who's a former president, very loved by a lot of folks and very hated by a lot of folks, who is getting indicted, and people that gets more support behind him. You have DeSantis, who's solid, splitting the party. And then you have Manchin, who's talking about maybe being a third party candidate, which would absolutely destroy the Democrats. It would pull some from the Republicans too, but and not as much as it would pull from the left. That would destroy the Democrats' chance right there if Manchin ran. But it's going to be interesting. 16 months, people. 16 months. This is going to be a freaking roller coaster. Probably more crazier than 2020 was. And that was a crazy one. 2016 was too. I mean, the Trump, Hillary, and Mueller, and freaking Hunter's laptop and everything. And, Trump's interview, grab him by the, in the bus. And my mom's on the show. I'm not going to say it all. But anyways, you know what I'm talking about. That was insane. 2020 was insane with Biden, and he campaigned from the freaking basement, and you had COVID going on, all that kind of stuff. It was insane, but not like crazy. But this is now imagine Trump running with indictments on him, and you got Biden who trips over air, doesn't know who he's talking to, and a campaign, being on campaign trail is grueling. The first time he did it from his basement with the excuse of COVID. So unless they go out and engineer something else in a freaking lab, probably going to have to get out there, whether they do damn debates or not. But even the left is saying, "Hey, you need to get out and debate," just like they're telling Trump he needs to debate. So pay attention to that. The next 16 months are going to be crazy, and everyone's going to be watching this. And after what happened in 2020 and how the voting happened, you can say stolen, you can say rigged, you can say no, that's the way it happened at 2 a.m. when a whole bunch of votes happened, and 81 million people voted for a dude that lost 3 times before, who's the oldest whitest dude ever, who's been in the Senate for 47 years, who's been convicted of and found guilty of plagiarism, who's just, all that kind of stuff. But no, 81 million people came voted for him, even more than Barack Obama twice. It's going to come out again. This one is going to be a wild ride. And just like last time in the last election, when Toby and I were on here a lot together before he was, running his business in Mexico, as you guys remember, been watching the show, every Thursday we would get on and there would be like, uh-oh, well, we weren't sure this morning what we were going to talk about, but all of this crap happened today, and here's our topics for tonight. Even though there have been 6 days of stuff still happening from the last show. That's what I think we're about to get into again. It'll be telling about who Soros or Soros Jr. supports, where the money goes in the RNC, who's going to back out of the RNC run, because everyone in there is throwing their hat in the ring. I think Rob's even thrown his hat in to be a candidate. I'd vote for you, Rob. But it's going to be interesting to see who backs up and supports each other, the rhetoric that's going to come out of President Trump or DeSantis, or where the polls are going to go, and then how the whole geopolitical world stage is going to play into it. Ukraine, China, what's happening, everything else. China moving in, not only China moving in the islands and what they're doing, but China moving into Cuba. I mean, it is going to get crazy. So strap in, lock that seatbelt down, or put that 5-way harness on, because we're starting to get into it, and it's going to get heavier every month. Because once we hit November, we're a year out, and those fundraising and talking point machines are going to be at full speed at that point. So with that, I think we're going to wrap it up. Again, we started with The Sound of Freedom. Go check that movie out. I'll admit I have not seen it yet. I've been on the road and traveling, but I am definitely going to go see it. Make sure you're paying attention to the news. Keep an eye out. Google Susan Katz Keating, or go to SOF Mag now and check that out. She has the name. Now, I was going to try to get her on tonight, but it was too late by the time I got in a position to do it. But I'm going to reach out to her actually and see if I can get her on next week and do a show next week or sometime the next few days with her. Maybe, man, wouldn't that be awesome if I get her to come out with it here on this show? Love Susan, known her a long time. Not sure she loves me that much, but that would be something if we expose that here. That would be, I guess my numbers would go up. Yeah, we'd probably be a hit show after that. But make some YouTube money. But yeah, so Susan Katz Keating, sofmag.com. Check that out. Keep an eye on AI, where it goes and how our government's going to regulate it, because Kamala's the czar. She's in charge of intelligence, the artificial fake kind, obviously. And yeah, and let's see where these soldiers get used and how that happens, and what they end up doing. If anyone wants to cover that, they probably will forget all about it. And affirmative action. Let's see what happens. Let's see what other rulings the court comes out with. And I think elections have consequences. And what else does is when presidents are able to put 2 or 3 seats on the 2 or 3 people on the Supreme Court. Hey, Miss Eisel, that's Mama-in-law. She saw the movie. So you got Mama's recommendation on it. 2 thumbs up. So yeah. But let's see what other rulings come out of the Supreme Court, because that will be where we're going to still see Keenan coming. And will they come with a true interpretation of the Constitution, or are they going to come with the party that nominated them? Which just sickens me that we even have to talk about that. I mean, judges should not have any kind of party affiliation if they're interpreting the law as it written, no matter what kind of judge they are. If there's one thing that sickens me about our system, it's that somehow the judges, the blind lady justice, are somehow tied to freaking political party letters. But anyways, I want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. I almost said joining me tonight, but I mean, you did join me watching. We've had a good numbers on, but no guest. Sorry about that. Hopefully some things slow down. I'm traveling again next week, but I'm actually going to try to do some shows next week too. May have a special guest with me and do a in-hotel special show where I'm traveling next week. So With that being said, thank you so much for joining me. Sorry it's been a few weeks. Hopefully this comes across good, because I just went to green screen and didn't do the background thing. It looks like to me that the audio and video stayed pretty well lined up. So with all that said, thank you so much. Stay tuned in here on Stu and the Nunn. Be sure to like our Facebook page, Twitter, and all of our socials. Comment on there. You got ideas for guests, got topics you want me to talk about, or me and Rob or Toby when I get them on, or whoever. Always send us a note, send us a message on Facebook. Me and Rob are always watching that pretty extensively. So with all that, thank you all. Have a great night and God bless. Well, that wraps up another episode of the Stu and the Nunn Show, and we hope you had as much fun listening to it as we did hosting it for you. Don't forget to like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. You can find all these links at stewandthenunn.com. We will talk to you again next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Also, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Commodity Outdoors, Veteran Outdoors, Enlisted 9 Fight Company, Warrior Media Solutions, and BooHammer.com. Thank you again, and have a good night.